We actually have someone right now who knows the taste of war, unfortunately. We, by the way, expect a Pentagon briefing at the top of the next hour with Iran. We'll bring that to you live. Democratic Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona joins us now. He's a member of the Armed Services Committee and served as a captain in the U.S. Navy. Also with us for the discussion, MS Now contributor, our good friend Mike Barnicle. Senator, I'll start with you on the state of the war this morning. We've heard these shifting rationales for why the joint attacks with Israel were launched over the weekend. It was about stopping their nuclear program once. It was about an imminent threat, the president repeated, to the United States. He said that again yesterday. We've heard that perhaps it was Israel that was going to go after the supreme leader, and therefore we had to take out some defenses because we knew there would be a response. We heard that from Secretary Rubio as well. As you sit in it, someone who served and fought in wars, what is the justification for this war?
Well, I think you got it right. I mean, it's a shifting explanation. I also heard yesterday about the imminent threat, but it was sometime in the future that the imminent threat would exist because of their ballistic missile capability. Hey, they don't seem to know what they're doing or why they did this. I think this is a perfect example of what happens when you have a leader of a country who doesn't take input, doesn't take advice, puts a lot of yes people around him, and makes these, decisions without the right input and without the right data. So I think this is not going well for them. And what that means is it's not going well for our country, and it's not going to go well for service members. I don't want to see a repeat of what happened in 2003 in Iraq when we wind up with a long and bloody conflict. So, Senator, then there's the matter of what comes next. The idea was that if you take out the supreme leader and some of the leadership that was in that meeting in Iraq, President Trump said in that address immediately after on Saturday, now it's to you, the Iranian people. Take to the streets, go fight the IRGC, take over your country, take back your country from the regime that's been so brutal to you since 1979. What is, in your view, what is the plan for what comes next? Because for the moment, it looks like a version of the same people who were leading Iran are now rising up to lead it again. Yeah, they don't have a plan. I don't think there was a strategic goal here, and they're flailing around. So no goal, no timeline. What that leads to is just more U.S. service members in a really, really challenging spot. You got to, I think one thing that I don't think has been really mentioned here much is how this president considers and his regard for U.S. service members. I mean, over the last 10 years, he said a lot of things that makes me believe that he doesn't have the kind of respect that typical presidents have of members of the military and the challenges that they face. The Iranian people, they're in a tough spot. I mean, this is not an armed opposition. This isn't like 1979 when there were millions of people, in the streets here. It's much smaller. It's much less coordinated to the extent that, anything like this is coordinated. I want to see the Iranian people certainly rise up and replace this regime. And it's a good thing that the Ayatollah's gone, right? But, I mean, at this point, how do they do that? And 3 weeks ago, the IRGC murdered 30,000 Iranians. So this is going to be a challenging thing. I think by this point, the administration thought that this would all be over and there'd be a new government. Not that easy.
Senator, to the point that you just raised, we have lost 6 Americans thus far in this combat operation. And the larger point is that the President of the United States, I'm wondering if you feel the same way that many Americans seem to feel about it, he has not answered the question, why? Why now? Why are we there? What are we doing there? How long are we going to be there? Have you been satisfied with the answer, or did you hear an answer to that question, why?
Not even close. And how does this help Americans afford their health care, which, by the way, this president put a big dent in, right? Really cut if you're somebody on Medicaid or getting your health care from the Affordable Care Act exchange. He wanted to give a big tax cut to billionaires. How does this help you? By the way, you know, costs are going to go up. Energy prices are going to go up. That's going to affect everything. How does this directly affect people that can't afford their lives? I don't see it. I don't see how it helps them. I don't see how this makes Americans safer. I mean, when you start talking about an imminent threat that is in the future, you're flailing.
So, Senator, President Trump took to social media in the last 24 hours or so ago and proclaimed that the United States has more or less unlimited stockpile of weapons, missiles, defense interceptors, and the like. We know that obviously is not true. But what have you heard? Have you been briefed at all about, even in broad strokes, the capability that the U.S. has and our partners in the Gulf have? Because there is a looming fear here that Iran will have missiles that at some point we may not be able to shoot down.
Yeah, I mean, this becomes a math problem, right? I mean, we've got air defense systems in the Middle East. We have interceptors. They have Shahed drones, a lot of them, and they have a lot of ballistic missiles. And which magazine runs out first? We can resupply these air defense systems, but it's not an unlimited resupply, and we have to take it out of other theaters. You know, what does that do to that combatant commander? How can he, you know, protect the assets that he's responsible for? If we start pulling things out of Indo-PACOM, so the Western Pacific, what do the Chinese think about that? Does that present an opportunity for them maybe down the road here to make their move on Taiwan? So, you know, again, I think we have a president that makes decisions, you know, rather quickly, without a lot of data, without a lot of thought, without a lot of discussion about what the consequences are of doing this, and really without the discussion about what's the upside here. You know, what are we getting out of this? Was this an imminent threat? And not really. I mean, the Iranian nuclear program was significantly damaged last summer. It was not obliterated. They had an ability to reconstitute it. But how do we attack that problem now? And back to the math problem. We're going to have to see. Yes, we've been asking these questions. I have specifically asked these questions, and I haven't gotten great answers.
All right, they're great questions, though. Retired U.S. Navy captain and member of the Armed Services Committee, Democratic Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. Thank you very much for being on the show this morning. We really appreciate it. All right.